Welcome to Washington Hospital Today, dedicated to informing residents about healthcare topics and issues. Through programs featuring community forums and free health and wellness classes, our goal is to empower community members with the information needed to make informed health decisions. Washington Hospital has been providing healthcare to the residents of the Washington Township Healthcare District for the past 60 years. Hello, welcome to today's presentation, Coping with Grief and Bereavement During the Holidays, presented by Dr. Neeru Kumar, psychiatrist with Washington Township Medical Foundation. Dr. Kumar is a board-certified and fellowship-trained psychiatrist. For over 2 decades, Dr. Kumar has been treating a wide range of psychiatric conditions, including mood, bipolar, and adjustment disorders, and anxiety and depression. She has specialized training in treating mental health issues in older patients and patients who are pregnant or postnatal. And now, please welcome Dr. Kumar.
Dear friends, the topic I have chosen today is about grief and how to cope with grief during the holidays. Grief, which most of us have experienced at some time or another in our lives, is a deeply personal and often overwhelming experience that arises from loss. Whether it is the death of a loved one, a loss of a beloved pet, or the end of a relationship, or a significant life change, grief touches us all in unique ways. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. The holiday season can especially be hard for those of us who are grieving the loss of a loved one. The cheer of the holidays, the family get-togethers, triggers such as music, food, decorations, the empty chair that we notice at the dining table can all heighten and intensify the feelings of loss, sadness, and isolation. So how do we navigate these holidays in a way that honors the memory of a loved one and also helps create safe spaces for us to deal with our own emotions? Now let us briefly review about the grief. There are 2 types of grief, the pre-loss grief and after-loss grief. A pre-loss grief is commonly experienced when our loved one is going through a terminal illness or they are at the end stage of their life. This can be a fairly confusing and overwhelming experience as we are trying to hold on while letting go. There can be a whole lot of emotions all at the same time. Grief can affect us in different ways, physically, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. Physically, normally people experience loss of appetite, a sudden illness, aches and pains, headaches. They have difficulty falling asleep, and a hollow feeling in their stomach. Emotionally, there's a sense of loneliness, a lot of worry, anxiety, fear, impatience, and sometimes they have difficulty focusing or concentration. Socially, they feel like they want to withdraw from their friends, they tend to isolate themselves, there's a loss of interest in things. And spiritually, there's a feeling of powerlessness. They're trying to find meaning in what's going on. There's sometimes anger at God, a sense of wanting to abandon faith. Sometimes there's a strengthening of faith. Though what we want may not always be possible, do your best to spend the remaining time in a way you and your loved one can find meaning. Tying up the loose ends, making amends by forgiving, and reviewing your life together, what you've learned and what was joyful. Sometimes reviewing also the more practical matters such as their wish about the last rites. There are a lot of similarities and overlapping features between the pre-loss and after-loss grief. However, there are some differences. Realizing with the after loss comes the realization of the finality of death. You have to start to assume your new role, or you're losing your other roles. And of course, facing with the practical paperwork and other frustrations that come along with that, and a lot of guilt feelings and thoughts. Once the numbness and the initial shock passes on, people find themselves preoccupied with the various guilt feelings. The various types of guilt feelings that are experienced commonly include role guilt. What should I have done that I didn't do or I didn't see? If only I had done something that would have changed the course of the illness, or changed the outcome. A relief guilt. Relief after watching someone who has suffered for a long time and has passed on. Grief guilt. What would a perfect grieving process be like? Am I doing it right? And recovery from the recovery guilt. Living life in a new normal without the loved one and feeling okay about moving forward. It is important to think realistically about your guilt and come to a realization with the hindsight wisdom. I did the best I could with what I knew at that time. Now let's talk a little bit about the various stages of grief. The various perceived stages of grief, go along various emotions before the acceptance stage arrives. As you can see in the slide here, it says perceived stages of grief. People go through the initial stages of shock and denial, emotional numbing, and then they go through these various emotional stages. The most popular model of grief by Kubler and Ross states there are 5 stages of guilt. Initial stage of denial, followed by anger, then comes bargaining, followed by depression, and finally acceptance. So as we can see that, it is important to remember that grief does not follow a set timeline or a pattern. As you can see in the other slide, which is a more realistic experience of grief, it is a whole mishmash of emotions. You may feel that you have moved 2 steps forward only to realize that your grief has suddenly taken you several steps back. All these emotions are very valid. Embracing these emotions rather than pushing them away is a very important, crucial step in the process of healing. Let's look at the task of mourning as described by J. William Warden. We have to accept the reality of loss, to process that pain of grief, and to adjust to a world without your loved one. Do what brings you comfort. Tips for continuing bonds with the people we have lost. There are so many different ways you can continue to have that bond in a meaningful way with the person you have lost. Sometimes talking to them loudly, or talking to them in your head, writing a letter to them, keeping photos around. Imagine the advice they would give you when you're faced with a tough situation. Taking those trips that you both had planned and were unable to do. Planning anniversary holidays is an important part of the grieving process, because avoiding them can create more anxiety and fear. Try to enjoy the food and other things that your loved one relished. And a lot of people experience some ways that the loved one is communicating with them. Look for those signs, such as pennies or dragonflies, butterflies, heart-shaped stones, hummingbirds. And as we mentioned earlier, it is important to plan for special events such as birthday, holiday, anniversary. It can help you relieve some of the anxiety. And if you're finding it hard to do it alone, include some other people in your plans. And be kind and gentle to yourself. You may not be up to planning and hosting a holiday party, which you would do before. It's okay to say no and allow time for your own feelings. Don't let them bottled up. Crying is a good release for tension and anxiety. Taking care of yourself is a very important part of grieving and healing. Making sure you take out time to take care of yourself, it is healthy. Neglecting yourself can lead to depression and physical illness. Make time to go to your doctor, keep your appointments. Eating clean, healthy, and nutritious food, making sure you're drinking enough water, avoiding too much caffeine or alcohol. Rest whenever you can. Deep breathing exercises are very helpful for stress reduction. Whenever you're feeling anxious or panicky, use a grounding activity. Walking in a nature, which means even just walking around the block, can be a very effective exercise. This grounding activity that I'm showing up here on the screen is a very useful exercise when you're feeling anxious. Making sure, look around you, wherever you are, whether indoors or outside. Try to name 5 things you see. Try to name 4 things that you can hear. Try to name 3 things that you can touch. Name 2 things that you can smell. And name 1 thing that you love to taste or you feel good about yourself. And deep breathing activity, 4, 7, 8, please go through those steps. These are very useful deep breathing exercises, again, when you're feeling anxious, and it is a good idea to practice these on a daily basis, even when you're not feeling anxious. For taking an inhalation for 4 seconds, holding on for 7 seconds, and then breathing, exhaling through your mouth to a count of 8 seconds, and repeating that for 3 times. Try to practice that, which can be very, very effective and helpful. Healthy grieving, just to recap again, try to take care of yourself, having that social connection, people that you feel comfortable with talking to. There are a lot of people who feel uncomfortable around people who are grieving, but if you have some support, social friends or family, try to talk to them and stay connected with them. It's good practice to express your feelings, whether by writing or art or talking to someone. And whenever you're feeling your energy is going low, try to use some strategies to increase your energy level. Make sure you're sleeping well and keeping your body healthy. Let's look at some of the tips we can continue to have bond with our people we have lost, especially during holidays. Start a new tradition. Write a card or a letter each year to place in the stocking. Make a wreath with their favorite ornaments or decorate their graveyard and gravesite for the holidays. Remembering a person in prayers before a holiday dinner. Donating to an organization in memory of your person, or donating your time or volunteering to the issues and to the causes that were dear to the person you lost. Sharing memories of your person at a special meal, going on a walk with others to their favorite place, lighting candles, and share a poem, their favorite poem, or anything that was special to them with others. These are some of the tips for friends and family of grievers. Say their name. Saying a person's name, recognizing that they lived, they matter, and they are missed. It will not remind them of their loss. Don't just ask, just do it. Instead of asking if you can do something for someone who's grieving this holiday season, just do something. Invite them for coffee, bring over some flowers, or send them a card. Give grace, not advice. You may not agree with how they are handling their grief, but at present, keep that opinion to yourself. Your presence and your patience are your biggest gift of this holiday season. Be a willing participant in someone's grief plan. Your friend or family member may want to plan in a certain way. Try to be there for them. recognize your griever's limits. The holidays are full of celebration and nostalgia, but your friend or family member who's grieving may not be in that zone to enjoy these. And if they do want to leave early, it is okay. Allow them to have a space where they can safely leave early from the celebration without making a big fuss. Finally, I would like to just share these two beautiful poems written. The first one, a poem by Gwen Flowers, which really summarizes all the feelings of grief. It says, I had my own notion of grief. I thought it was the sad time that followed the death of someone you love, and you had to push through it to get to the other side. But I'm learning that there is no other side. There is no pushing through, but rather there is absorption, adjustment, acceptance. And grief is not something you complete, but rather you endure. Grief is not a task to finish and move on, but an element of yourself, an alteration of your being, a new way of seeing, a new definition of self. I think it's beautifully written and expresses all the emotions of grief. And this other poem, if you have some time, please read for yourself. It's a beautiful poem. It says, The Cruelest Month. And finally, I would like to just go over some of the resources that I have addressed here, listed. Please take a look at some of the books, websites, hotlines, and support groups. And of course, finally, seeking individual therapy or grief counseling, which can be a very valuable tool to help you heal and process your pain through this period of grief. And I would strongly encourage people to attend support groups that are offered in your community, either through the hospitals, hospice centers, or through the churches. So please take advantage of that. They can be invaluable in your support system and to help you heal through this difficult phase in your life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. We do have one question. Although I am grieving, I don't want my family to worry about me. What can I say or do to ease their worry about me?
Yeah, I think it is very difficult for the loved ones to watch, their family members going through the pain and sadness of grief. Just letting them know that, their presence and their support and knowing that they are there for them is such a big comfort and help to them as they are going through their grief. Letting them know that as sad as they are feeling, it is important for the family members to just reassure the person who's going through grief that as difficult as it is right now, as hard as it is, this period is going to get better. And you don't forget the person that you've lost. They're always going to be a big part of them, but they will move forward.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for this insightful presentation, and I think it will help a lot of people with coping with grief during the holidays. This does conclude our program, and thank you, viewers, for tuning in. The entire broadcast of today's presentation will be available on our Facebook page and YouTube.